human beings could be aliens. Well, actually, every person on this planet is an alien. Even our planet itself is an alien. What? Scientists just discovered something interesting. I've never talked about this shit on the podcast, so you guys can look this up. So our Milky Way galaxy is pretty interesting because it's absorbing another galaxy at this exact moment called the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy.
You already know what it is. It's your boy Laid Back with another reaction, another review, another episode. Hey, TikTok, you up to bat. It's your boy Laid Back. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, two things we gotta do. You gotta hit that subscribe button. I'm drinking this water. You already know what it is, man. Elevate more in 2024. Elevate more in 2024. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with all the videos. Make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget, I need suggestions for the slogan for 2025. Make sure you drop that in the comments. I've been reading a lot of y'all suggestions. There's some good ones in there. There's some trash ones in there too. But yeah, we got another TikTok compilation, man. Welcome back to the show. It's your boy Laid Back. I know I done said that before, but we back. More conspiracy theories. We got Billy Carson. You know what I'm saying? A lot of his compilations in here. So you make it to the end of this one, you're a real one for real. Make sure you put that in the comments. Don't forget to put that in the comments. Also, I got a TikTok playlist. If you into this stuff, you can click it, watch it, enjoy. Make sure you got some time on your hands though, because you might go down a rabbit hole. But let's go ahead and get into it. Fire Squad, what's popping? Let's get it.
Fighting technologies like crazy, suppressing them. There's no way you could tell me in the 21st century on planet Earth, with the amount of geniuses that we have walking around, that we're still driving around in combustion engines and launching rockets and satellites into space using chemical propellants, basically controlled explosions to get into space. Are you kidding me? We're using combustion engines in the 21st century? I gotta get on a plane in Miami and fly for 38 hours just to get to Cambodia. Damn. Why is it taking me 38 hours of my life to go from point A to point B on this planet? When we had the supersonic transport back in the 80s, you can go from New York to London in less than 3 hours.
What?
And now it's the 21st century and we've gone backwards from that? Planes flying at 400 or 500 miles an hour? Are you kidding me? It's by design. All of this is by design. It's all been suppressed. And the biggest tool for humanity that has been suppressed is anti-gravity. The U.S. Navy has patented anti-gravity. The patent describes a device that uses a microwave emitter to create a high-frequency electromagnetic wave through a cavity and create a polarized vacuum. This polarized vacuum in turn reduces the...
This video might be over my head a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you do your own research. Do your own research. This right here, he gonna be breaking down some stuff. Let's go.
The mass of the weight of the vehicle. The first invention that came out way before this one got approved, and the guy disappeared, and they were able to answer the patent office questions, so it got abandoned. And then miraculously, a few years later, the Navy pops up with the same exact description, and it's approved, and they own it. These people at the very top of the pyramid are suppressing, oppressing, holding back these advanced technologies.
The government.
Thoth gives away something else in the Emerald Tablets. He utilizes cymatic frequencies and photons to manifest solid matter. Now that's...
Yeah, we're going to have to stay with him on this one. Photons and I don't know what the hell he just said. Chromatic. Did he say chromatic?
The very top of the pyramid are suppressing, oppressing, holding back these advanced technologies. Thoth gives away something else in the Emerald Tablets. He utilizes cymatic frequencies and photons to manifest solid matter. Now that sounds crazy in ancient tablets. But guess what happened 2 years ago in a laboratory in the world we live in right now? Scientists got together and they combined cymatic frequencies and photons and for the first time ever created solid matter. That's in physics.org.
Wow.
The tablets keep getting proven by modern science. This is why I keep going back to the tablets, because you've heard of the active denial system in the military. It's this dish that sends out a beam of frequency towards people that are looking to be, do harm, right? Mobs. It'll make you stop in your tracks. It'll make you feel like you gotta vomit. It'll make you feel like you're on fire. It can even put voices in your head. It's called the active denial system in the military. Well, in the Emerald Tablets, those have this group of people coming at him because they don't know who he is when he lands his ship. He says, I raised my staff and sent out a ray of vibration which stopped them still in their tracks.
Whoa.
Sounds like the active denial system to me. Same technology, just just a different year. We're just simply rediscovering everything that already existed.
Right. Yeah.
We haven't done anything new yet.
Right. Ooh.
Everything was already done.
Facts.
Everything has already been done. We're just rediscovering what we lost.
Okay, let's go, man.
So I dug real deep into it, and I got to the understanding that we're living in a multi-dimensional universe, and there's at least 11 dimensions. Otherwise, the universe would collapse. Each dimension is a 90-degree angle right above the next one, compactified. So they're sitting right on top of us. So within less than a Planck unit of space above you, there's another dimension that actually exists with a whole nother universe happening simultaneously while we're sitting right here.
Wow.
Wild.
That's hard to fathom. It's hard to fathom. So right here where we're sitting right now, there's a whole nother dimension of a whole nother universe happening, life taking place.
Yes.
Right in the same space that we are.
Right here. Right here where we are.
Crazy.
Right here. Vast too. Vast. Just as vast as ours is vast.
That's crazy.
And from higher dimensions, they experience time differently. Time really doesn't exist. The past, present, and the future happen all at once.
Whoa.
So somebody, for example, from the fifth dimension would look at us and they'd be able to see us. Imagine us in this building here, but imagine when I first walked in, and imagine us in here, and imagine me like in the bathroom or something. They'd be able to see us in all the different rooms. The different rooms will represent different time frames of existence within this structure. So they can see the past, present, and future at the same time. So it's pretty cool. Weird stuff starts happening the higher the dimensions you go.
So is the idea that when you're in a higher dimension, you can see below lower dimensions, but you can't see dimensions above you?
Exactly, unless you have the capability of matching. First, you have to obtain the frequency of a higher dimension and then match that frequency to be able to walk in. So
match the frequency.
Yeah. So for example, okay, my hand is stopped now by this table, right? Why is it stopped? I'm not really touching the table. There's repulsion going on, electromagnetic repulsion between the electrons in my hands repelling the electrons in the table. You don't really touch anything. What? Now, if I can match the subatomic frequency of the atoms in this chunk of wood here on this table, I could, with my hand, I would be able to pass my hand right through this table unscathed. Why? Because atoms are 99.999% empty space. Nothing is really here. Everything is only a light wave slowed down to a particular frequency. And so if you can match frequencies, you can merge with things. You can walk through walls and all that kind of stuff. The things that seem paranormal could be advanced beings have tapped into some type of understanding of how to match different frequencies in our dimension and appear apparitional or paranormal. But in true reality, they could just be taking a peek in.
And how did we come to the understanding that these higher dimensions exist?
Right.
Like, what is the most basic evidence that we have of this?
Quantum physics proves it. See, when we look into the quantum world, everything changed. In standard physics is where we are right now, in the large side of physics. But the smaller you go, the more weird things get. We find that particles transphase in and out of existence, and they go to different dimensions. We even know now that some of our synapses of our thoughts in our brain phase out of this dimension and they go somewhere else, and then they come back again. And this has all been tracked and traced through the understanding of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, and understanding that dimensions exist. The biggest way that we made a model of this is we figured out how to create something called quasi-crystals. Now, these quasi-crystals are these multi-dimensional crystals. We actually created an 8th dimensional quasi-crystal.
We created this.
Yes, we created it.
How did we create it?
We created in a laboratory using different technologies. And then from that 8th dimensional quasi-crystal, it casts a shadow of itself down to a 4th dimensional quasi-crystal, which then casts down a shadow which creates a sphere. So we know that the universe is most likely the shadow of a higher dimension. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, kind of mind-bending.
Hey, we both like, yeah, whatever you say.
Jesus never said he was returning. Jesus never said he was coming back. He said the Christ would return. And the Christ existed long before he was even born. It's the Christ consciousness. Before Jesus, there were many Christs. It's a understanding, a level of thinking, a way of ascending to a higher level of knowledge and wisdom and understanding about yourself internally, and then out on the outside, the world as a whole, and understanding that there are levels to ascension, and being born again has to do strictly with raising your consciousness to a higher level than it was before. And you will continuously be born again over and over again as you ascend to higher dimensions of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. That's what being born again is all about. It has nothing to do with dousing your head in some kind of water or a pool of water and somebody praying over you and all that kind of foolishness. Nothing at all. That's all stuff made up by men. And anything that a man touches is corrupted. If you look at the ancient mysteries, being born again is all about how far you can ascend consciously. And then looking back on that previous level you were at and realizing, wow, I was there. Now I'm here. I learned so much to get to this level. Now there's even another level. And the top level, who knows where that's at? It's a continual process of growth.
Let me know what you think in the comments about that.
People don't even talk about Ceres. It has the most fresh water out of any other planet in our solar system. More
and
fresh
where's its location?
That's the next planet after Mars, Ceres.
Really?
Ceres.
How big is it?
It's
like Pluto-sized?
It's about maybe 2/3 smaller than Mars. And guess what?
It's a dwarf planet, so they don't. It follows an orbit between Mars and Jupiter near the middle of the asteroid belt with an orbital period.
And when they flew by it a few years ago, the lights were on. They sent a probe out there.
What?
The lights were on. And so they started trying to say it was ice particles glistening in the sunlight. So when they got to the dark side, guess what? The lights were on the dark side. So they couldn't use the ice particle explanation anymore. So they just said, we don't know what it is.
What? Ceres' small size means that even at its brightest, it's too dim to be seen by the naked eye, except under extremely dark skies. Its apparent magnitude ranges from 6.7 to 9.3, peaking in opposition when it's closest to Earth. As a result, its surface features are barely visible even with the most powerful telescopes, and little was known about it until the robotic NASA spacecraft Dawn approached Ceres for its orbital mission in 2015.
Whoa, I ain't never heard about that planet.
You think Jesus was an alien?
I think Jesus was half human, half alien.
Who is Jesus to you? In your eyes, who is Jesus?
His name is Yeshua. Jesus is, first, the J is a recent letter. J is not that old. Originally Isus, and that name means Hail Zeus. So you're calling on Zeus when you say Jesus. One of the Sumerian people who converted over to the Greek gods. His name is Yeshua. To me, very powerful person, very spiritual, high level of knowledge, a student of the Egyptian mysteries. When Jesus disappears from the Bible, he actually ends up in Egypt. You can find this information in a book that was kept out of the biblical text called the Gospel of the Holy 12. He shows up in Egypt. We know that's a fact because I take people on tour every year to Egypt, and I take them to the house that Jesus lived in. It's a crypt. It's actually worship. People come there to see that bed that he laid in every single year. When I take people there, we take them straight there. And we know the path that he traveled throughout Egypt because it's a huge sign outside that Coptic church where he lived that shows where he went. When he was in Egypt, what did he go there for? To learn the Egyptian mysteries. Who taught the Egyptian mysteries? Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, the teacher of the Egyptian mysteries, or the ancient mysteries of what it's called. And then he leaves there and he goes to Tibet to learn Qigong and Reiki healing, which was confirmed by the Dalai Lama. And then he heads down into India to learn the mystic arts, teaching reincarnation all the way back. Then the Bible picks him up at the age of 32. I call my son out of Egypt. He shows up on the back of a donkey, proclaims himself to be the Messiah. I think that he had a big message. I don't think people were able to grasp it at the time, but his message was that not that he was coming back, but that the Christ would return, the Christ consciousness.
Where did you get this info? What book did you read that said this?
The Gospel of the Holy 12, another apocryphal text that was kept out of the canonized Bible.
Man, this dude on some other stuff.
Some of it comes out of the Nag Hammadi scripts. They believed in this reptilian type of a race that was in this phase-shifted reality that can actually dominate mankind from this behind the veil type mechanism. They also have another one that kind of looks like an embryonic, a person, but it's embryonic, looks like a gray alien, kind of weird stuff in these Nag Hammadi scripts. And it talks about these kind of beings. There's also been crypts in places underground, even in the Americas, where they found remnants of what seemed to be this ancient reptilian race. And of course, you know, in Samaria, they found the Ubaid culture with thousands of statuettes of these reptilian people. So there could be some truth to that. There could be some actual truth to that. In terms of who's running the world right now, I believe there's still people who are in direct bloodline with the Sumerian kings list.
Underground.
And then the next thing you know, there's a golden age. And what is a golden age? Which has happened before in the past. We know this because there's records of golden ages. When you have the golden age, you have brought heaven to earth. And so that is what the ultimate goal is. because source, or the universal consciousness, or God, whatever you want to call it, the creator of all, wants to see this experiment develop from nothing into a golden age. And it wants to experience it through us on what it would be like to live in the third dimension. So the creator has divided itself into Googles of entities. Google is a number, not a search engine. It's an actual number. Look it up. Into Googles of entities. That's a number that you can't even count. So it can experience what it's like to be Billy, to be Roderick, to be everyone in the chat right now, subjectively, and to understand what it's like to move through this third density and grow and learn and create mistakes and be a part of the problem and be a part of solutions and everything else. It wants to collect information and data and send it back to itself at the higher dimensions. And that's what's going on here. And so many people have said, you know what? I could just be in this thing and I can just pray and beg for forgiveness, and I can screw up again and pray and beg for forgiveness. It's this vicious cycle that they've been taught where they don't have to stand up and be responsible for their own actions.
No accountability.
I believe extended from Earth all the way to the moon and even to Mars.
How does the moon fit into all of this?
When I started analyzing moon images, like old moon, long before Photoshop existed, images that anyone can download and get access to, you start seeing anomalies on there. And I got into this one data file called the Clementine mission, which is a declassified military low lunar orbiting satellite. And right away, when I saw the name Clementine, I knew it never came back, because Clementine is an old song. Oh, my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever. Oh, my darling Clementine. So I said, I bet this thing didn't come back. But it had data, downloadable gigs of data, of images it took of the moon on the other side. So I'm downloading this stuff like crazy.
On the other side of the moon?
Yeah.
Okay.
What they call the dark side.
Right.
I always call it the other side because it's not really dark.
Yeah.
People call it the dark side, but it's really not dark. But these images had incredible anomalies, but things that look like broken structures, broken things just appear to be everywhere.
What?
China sent a rover to the moon, and they made the mistake of transmitting in real time what the rover was seeing, and the rover got caught in debris. I mean, a lot of debris, and it's still, I think, publicly available. The image is online right now. And what was up there? I think even the whole moon mission was all about a reconnaissance mission to bring back pieces of what they saw may have been the remnants of an ancient civilization, which is why they showed you some part real and some part fake.
Ancient civilization on the moon?
When you pray, you're trying to cast a spell. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. When you pray, you are trying to cast a spell. Anybody who's praying, that's what you're trying to do. You want to alter the future reality to benefit you in a way by uttering words. You want those words to go out and manifest a change in your reality that you so desire, whatever that desire is. Now, interestingly, there's rules to how this stuff can be done. And 90% of the people that are praying have no idea how to pray. So all that uttering that they're doing, all that begging and hoping and wishing and calling on names of deities have no power. Zero power. I mean, absolute zero. When you call on the name of Jesus, you're saying, "Hail Zeus," in ancient tongue. And Zeus is not going to bring you a damn thing. And so what happens is people get tricked because, oh, I prayed and I got this new house. Well, I got this new house and I didn't pray. I'm living in a 10,000 square foot house. I didn't pray for nothing. I commanded it.
He said I commanded it.
The English language, which has now dominated the entire planet, that's not an accident. The English language is the weakest language. And what I mean by that, words have power. Words can literally affect and change the ether of space-time itself. And the further back you go in time, the closer you get to the language of light, which is what the ancient Kemetic people and Egyptians would speak back in ancient times. Those words had supreme power over reality itself. And so, you know, just speaking certain ways and saying certain things can control different outcomes, because we know cymatic frequencies, which are created by our vocal cords, they emanate out of you. We think they're just words, but they're actually codes that the universe picks up.
That's why I be like, be careful what you say about yourself, even if you joking. When people be like, oh man, I'm stupid, I did X, Y, Z. Oh man, I shouldn't have. Just be careful, Be careful how you speak about yourself.
Programming codes, and then the universe then enacts those codes. That's how a lot of things happen. And so it's a way of, you know, creating different realities, and it's the power of the voice and the power of speaking.
That's a fact.
And everybody's looking for this justification from this fabricated God. Now, let me stop there for a minute. Many videos of me talking about these topics, and yet I believe that God actually exists, except the God that exists, that created this universe, is not written in any of those books. Not in the Quran, not in the Torah, not in the Talmud, not in the Bible, not in the Sumerian tablets, not in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, not in the Mahabharata, not in the Bhagavad Gita, not in the Indian Vedas, not in the Epic of Atrahasis, not in the Epic of Gilgamesh. I can go on and on and on. Not in the Code of Hammurabi, not in the Myth of Adapa. I can keep going. Guess what? I'm one of the foremost world leader in the knowledge on ancient texts and tablets, scriptures, papyruses, and cylinder scrolls. And guess what? In all the ones I've gone through over thousands over the years, not one of them is speaking about the creator of the universe, which is real. I acknowledge that. Matter of fact, so did the Anunnaki. They claimed to know that they were going to get in trouble for what they did on this planet by the creator of all, which tells you that they knew they weren't the creator of all, that there was somebody even above them, an energy, something above them that had a say-so, and they would have to find judgment one day. So they knew they weren't God, even though they masqueraded as God. They became the gods of the Torah and the Talmud and the Bible and the Quran and all these texts.
There's just some interesting stuff here.
There's only one Bible that exists with the full book of Enoch in the same Bible, and that's the Ethiopian Bible. It's a really, really old Bible. Long before the Sinai Bible, long before the King James Version, out of Ethiopia, right where actually a lot of the Jewish people are. There's black Jews in Ethiopia, which I'm gonna go see them next year when I go down to the Lalibela temples, which is a mountain that was carved into a temple from the outside going in, just like Abu Simbel and Petra, Jordan. And so, ironically, right there in that same area, they've got the Bible with the book of Enoch inside of it. But the reason why it was left out is because he was taken away, taught an advanced construction knowledge that nobody had the capability of knowing. And he was also, you know, he also had a record of these beings that were engaging the people in a way that it didn't seem too godly, let's put it that way. And so that part was left out as well.
Why do you think Enoch was chosen?
It may have been chosen because according to the ancient records, his father wasn't human. In other words, he was half Anunnaki or Atlantean in some way. Just like Ziusudra, aka Noah, was also half Anunnaki or Atlantean. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, same scenario. I believe it was Enki that was his father. And when Noah was born, or Ziusudra is his real name, when he was born, he didn't look like his, brothers and sisters or his family members. His hair was different, his eyes were a different color, his skin was a different color and everything else. So it's pretty interesting.
This stuff here.
I believe that we're in sleepy time and that when you die, you actually wake up. That there is a higher version of ourselves that exists in a higher realm or a higher dimension, a higher state of being. And that this is the proving or the testing ground to learn lessons and transmit information back to your higher self, and that at some point you wake up to a real you. And death is not to be worried or afraid of death. It's just another transition into another state of being, and that energy can't be destroyed in science. The second law of thermodynamics. Energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. So I'm never worried about death. I'm not worried about passing away or dying, because I know that I am already immortal. I am already eternal. It's just an energy formation of me existing here temporally in this form, in this avatar body, but on the eternal scale, I've been here for eons.
He talking that shit.
What do you think about the Bible?
Well, the Bible has a lot of good information in it. If you can apply some of the information, it can really change your life. It can really put you on the right path. But it also has some information in it that's detrimental to people as well. You have to have discernment with what you're reading in the Bible. In the Bible, where you see the word God everywhere, that's a mistranslation by accident on purpose. The original word is gods with an S. It's always with an S. When you back engineer the actual word, the translations, you find out it's gods, not God singular. Elohim is also a plural
plural term. It's not a singular term. And you also discover that Yahweh is actually Enlil from the Sumerian cuneiform pantheon, from the Sumerian cuneiform text. He's Enlil. It becomes Yahweh in the biblical text. And so, and just all these correlations between the different ancient characters from the Sumerian text end up in the biblical text. And you find out in the book of Deuteronomy that these gods are fighting each other over resources and people. So if you read, anyone who reads the book of Deuteronomy begins to realize this probably isn't the creator of the universe.
The same spark that created everything in the universe, that divine energy, is in every single atom in their body, which means that the power that's out there is the same power inside of them. Instead of praying from a position of begging, hoping, and wishing, you have to talk from a position of power, speaking things into existence, believing the end before the end. When I hop on a plane, I don't pray and hope and beg I get there safely. I command that I arrive at my destination safely. That's my prayer. That is literally the prayer. So understanding how to pray from a position of power, not from a position of weakness, because weakness, begging, hoping, wishing, those are low frequency mindsets. We know this by connecting a human being to an EEG and looking at a computer screen. We know scientifically low frequency, but a power mindset, you're connecting with the energetic grid in the universe from a position of power. You're gonna get back power and positivity.
Power and positivity, boy.
Write down 6 positive affirmations about yourself on a piece of paper. I am powerful. I am great. I am worthy.
Hold on, man. Hold on. Before we even get into this one, that was something that I did, I think back in 2019. I had a whole bunch of affirmations posted up on my wall around the crib, and I would read them every day. I still know them to this day. During that time, my life changed tremendously.
I can do it. I will achieve greatness. All these things, write them down. And then you're going to read them out loud to yourself 3 times a day with energy and power and meaning and conviction. And then you're going to replicate that for 9 days in a row. By the 9th day, your DNA is in the beginning stages of being rewritten. You duplicate it again. You repeat that same process. By the 3rd time through this process, or the 3rd set of doing this, all of a sudden your DNA is completely rewritten. And this has been scientifically proven. By using this technique, you actually can begin to rewrite your DNA and even deactivate genes that are not good for you and activate genes that are good for you. Your body now has shifted into a whole new frequency. Your cells begin to celebrate as you move into a whole new direction. So this guy, though, he talked about being able to achieve immortality through controlling his incarnations. And what he would do is he would go into something called the halls of Amenti. Now, only the elite of the elites had these halls of Amenti. And these halls of Amenti were deep underground in some cases. The one he talked about was underneath the Great Pyramid. Now, I've been down this subterranean shaft, which goes down 65 meters. I think maybe less than 4,000 people have ever been down this shaft in the history of Egypt. Since they started, letting people come to the pyramid. And then another 30 meters down beneath that. And there's more to go beneath even that.
There's more?
Oh, there's more.
And you know it's down there?
Oh, yeah. All that's down there is you have chambers. They discovered them through a special type of a scan, a muon scan. They discovered these huge halls underground, underneath the Great Pyramid that extend out underneath Giza a mile. Wow. And all of them appear to be potentially empty. They won't tell us what was there or what wasn't there. But these halls of Amenti that were written 36,000 years ago by Thoth, they actually exist right now today.
This stuff is interesting to me, I swear.
No one is really just kind of trying to piece stuff together, specifically talking about these ancient tablets, which are, to me, some of the most interesting things about ancient history. Particularly what came out of ancient Sumer.
Yeah.
Ancient Sumer, when you look at their tablets and like, what are they saying? And why would they dedicate so much time to talking about this stuff?
Exactly.
Why do they have pictures of giant, enormous people-looking things with like a humanoid with a tail sitting on their lap? Like, what, is this just fiction?
Yeah.
Like, why would they detail this? And how do they have a representation of the solar system with the correct amount of planets and relatively the correct order and size? You know, it's not exact, but it's an artistic version of the real thing.
Yeah.
And how the hell 6,000, 5,000 years ago do they know that?
Yeah.
And what explanations do we have? Like, what's the conventional explanations when people tried to dismiss what they knew in ancient Sumer?
Well, the conventional explanation is always going to the term mythology. They
Right.
throw mythology around, left and right to cover up the fact that they have no clue or idea. So they turn it into mythology so they can kind of say it's all fantasy and fairy tales, and this is how they express themselves or how they understood the universe. It's all mythology, it's all fake, but in reality, it's not all fake. These people left behind such detailed records and information. It's a time capsule of information on stone tablets for us today to be able to decipher, break down, and understand, and that's what we're here to do now.
This stuff is extremely interesting.
Even in biblical texts, they have the Enoch, that's the Anunnaki. There's a lot of depictions of them that have been left behind, fortunately for us. So we can see that they were really big people. They were mighty men. If you look at even Gilgamesh, for example, who was only half Anunnaki, every time you see a depiction of him, he's holding a full-grown male lion in his arms with one arm. He's yoking a lion, and he's standing up, and the lion's feet aren't even close to the ground. He was known as a big, big man. They called him a hero of old. They called him a savant. And so some of these beings, according to the estimates, could have been as much as 15, 20 feet tall. Real big people, massive people. Over time and through mating and mating with humans, they began to get smaller. They said, let us make man in our image. That made it into the biblical text. It originates in the tablets. So they're making us in their image. They cultivated us to look like them. Not that we actually are a replica of them, but the similarities are striking. In other words, you can always tell the slight difference. Even in biblical texts, they have the Enoch, that's the Anunnaki. It says, in their eyes, we were grasshoppers in their eyesight in the Bible. So we're talking about big people. Why are human beings so prone to want to worship something?
Good question.
And so they started looking into it pretty heavily, and they started analyzing the different genes in the human genome. And they started to realize something. There was a gene that seemed like it had to do with the urge for worship. So they said, let's test this one out. How they were doing this, they were putting these electrodes on people's heads, and they were having them have spiritual moments where they would be praying and so forth and so on, trying to analyze which part of the brain was doing this and how it triggered certain genes in the body. Well, they found the gene. It's called a worship gene. Now, what's interesting about this worship gene is they discovered that this worship gene is not that old. It was inserted into the Homo sapien genome around 200,000 years ago. Why is that important? According to the Sumerian tablets, about 200,000 years ago, that's when they decided to take out our chromosome number 2, fuse it together, and put telomere caps on each end, and get us to do the work for them in the fields as well, around that same 250,000 years ago range.
Wow.
The biologist said that this type of mutation couldn't just happen in 200,000 years. So it was purposefully done. Somehow they can't explain it. It should have taken millions of years for something like this to actually evolve in the human body naturally, but it didn't. It just appeared. That's because these people that tinkered with us, these Anunnaki people that tinkered with our genome, these advanced beings that were people, flesh and blood people like you and me, they literally took that chromosome number 2 out, fused it together, put telomere caps on it to shorten our lifespan, as well as inserted a worship gene or activated a worship gene in our body so that we will worship them as gods, do the work for them, bring them the offerings. What do you think the offerings were? If you analyze the Sumerian tablets, you find out what the offerings were. The offerings was their food. If you go to Egypt with me in 2022, we'll go to the temples where people would line up back in the day for miles to bring offerings to the demigods, to the pharaohs, and to the Anunnaki that were living and inhabiting some of these temples. And the purpose was they have these storehouses built inside the temples where they would take all these offerings and stack them up. Why? Because these people ain't going out there to kill no damn animals and grow no food. No. That's the offering. That's what the offerings were. The offerings were you bringing free food to these people. And in return, you'd get a blessing. Okay? My kid is sick. Can you bless us? Here's my best offering. And you bring them all this meat and all these fruits and vegetables, and they put it in the storehouse. The storehouses are still there to this very day.
Wow.
When you go to Egypt with me, we'll go straight to the storehouses and show you where the Anunnaki used to keep all the food from all the offerings. That's what the offerings were all about. Not paying 10% of your income so that the church can
the pastor can drive a nice car and have a nice mortgage. It was because it started out originally as bringing us food, because we're not gonna go hunting, man. We ain't got time for that. We're too busy dominating you guys.
What do you think about the Anunnaki? Let me
In
know.
America, we have DARPA. They have the Avatar Project. Look that up, the Avatar Project. I wrote about it in my book, where they transfer a soldier's consciousness into a field robot, and then the only thing that gets damaged is the robot blows up. The symbiotic link is disconnected through consciousness, but the soldier's obviously not going to die. And so this has all been done. This is real science being actively used right now. By 2045, which is the 2045 project in Russia, they're looking to transfer human consciousness into an actual being, an actual avatar body. So they can take a skin cell from you, they can put it in a petri dish, they can get it under the right conditions, turn that skin cell into a stem cell, culture that, turn that into a group of stem cells, and then grow that into a full clone of yourself using your own stem cells, and then transfer your mind into your new body. And it's all in my book. This is real stuff, man.
Whoa. Transfer your consciousness into a body?
I want people to understand, I'm not an atheist. I believe in a creator of the universe, because the quantum physics proves that we're living inside of a creation. There's no way to dispute that. There's no way to doubt it. We're living in a programmed holographic light matrix. That is a method used for this creation, but we are in this. It's created by an entity. I believe that there is a God. I just believe that the biblical version is not specifically talking about the creator of the universe. I believe those are the words of men about men that have manipulated it to be God. And actually, the word God in the Bible is mistranslated by accident on purpose. The original root word for that is gods with an S. And everywhere where you see God singular is actually supposed to have an S on the end. So there's so much going on. There's been tainted so much by man. But I do believe that there is a God. But again, you have to research everything that you believe in, especially if you're looking for this information to carry you into eternity. You should know every little tiny detail about it. You shouldn't just take it point and fact from somebody standing at a pulpit. You should be the expert on it yourself.
Do your own research, man.
Antarctica. Now, first and foremost, there is no ice wall. Doesn't exist. So if you think there's an ice wall, get it out of your head. That's more pseudoscience. Doesn't exist, okay? Antarctica is an amazing place. First and foremost, Antarctica was not in the original location it's in right now. Antarctica shifted into that spot, okay? If you go back, if you were able to rewind the geological time clock, you discover that based on tectonic plate movement, the movement of the plates of the crust of the earth over the magma, you discover that Antarctica was actually closer to the equator. How do we know this? We know this because the ice caps are melting. Antarctica ice is melting right now, and it has been for quite some time. And guess what we're finding in Antarctica? We're finding animals that were flash frozen. Animals that were flash frozen. How can that happen? That means that when the tectonic plates shifted, the landmass moved from equator to a northern position extremely fast, okay? Extremely fast, creating two problems. One, a global flood, because when you move that much mass, you're gonna displace liquid. And that displaced liquid washes over the land, creates a global flood. Global floods don't come from rain, they come from land masses shifting, okay? The second thing that you have is every animal, plants, and everything else are flash frozen. Now, what more evidence do we have of this besides the way that they've been preserved? When they do an autopsy on these deceased animals and they cut them open, guess what they find? Undigested food in their stomachs.
Wow.
The food in their stomachs is not digested, which means they were frozen very, very fast, which means that they came from an area that was much warmer, more tropical before it shifted into that location. And they're also finding a lot of crazy things under the ice, remnants of ancient civilizations that are just now starting to be seen. So Antarctica is really an amazing place, and there's going to be so many amazing discoveries coming out of that place. It's just up to whether they decide to disclose them to us or not.
That's real. Are they going to actually tell us what they find?
What is the main reason for the 33rd degree Masons? The main reason is not to, everybody thinks it's some kind of crazy thing. It's actually space travel. 33rd degree Masons is about space travel. That's the ultimate goal, because Masonry goes all the way back to the Chateau coming out of the land of Chem, the brick Masons that had the secret knowledge that was then lost in the mystery schools. It's all about reobtaining the capability of traveling in space. Why do I say that? Because you have to travel 33 times the speed of sound to escape Earth's gravity to get into space. If you travel 32, 31, 30, you're not going to escape. There's no escape velocity. You have to travel 33 times the speed of sound to escape into space. That's why the runway in Florida at the Space Coast is runway number 33.
Wow.
Some of the gods of the Indian texts, they're blue, not because they were saying it was a metaphor or that it was a coincidence. So no, these were blue people. Their skin had a bluish haze to it or a bluish tint to it. These were part of the Anunnaki people, proving that it wasn't just one specific race of people. Some of these people were black or dark-skinned, right? They even call them some black-faced in the Sumerian tablets. Some of these beings were Anunnaki, but they had African features, but they were fair-skinned with blonde hair and blue eyes. So it's almost like a person that maybe is like a mulatto or has that, is an albino, or maybe that's where the gene comes from. Who knows? And then you had people that were also resembled Caucasians and that were giants with red hair. And then you had, of course, you have the red man, which is coming out of the indigenous stories from the Lakota, the Hopi, and all these other tribes out of the Americas, these giants. And then, and no matter where you go, you find the same story. You find a particular type of a being ruling over people that kind of resemble them. Now, this is interesting. I started looking into this.
That's it? Come on now.
Angkor Wat's an amazing place. It's the largest audio.
History is so fascinating.
It's like the Great Pyramid, over 2 million blocks of stone, and nobody realized that they're all different 2 million blocks. They're each individual stone is totally different from the other one, which means you can't make a cookie cutter and say, okay, we got these blocks ready, let's stack them up. Didn't quite work that way because they're all different. Now you have to take into consideration also the subterranean part of the Great Pyramid. The subterranean, like the subterranean shaft, which cuts through solid stone and goes down 65 meters, then another 30 meters down beneath that, which I've been down there. How in the world did they cut that through solid stones that were already stacked? Some type of a laser cutting tool. And if you look at the mud ramp theory, the floating theory is a farce. You can't float these stones. The second thing we look at would be the mud ramp theory.
The floating theory, really quick, is the idea was that the Nile ran right up against.
Right.
I think the pier. So they were taking the stones from the Aswan Valley, I'm pretty sure.
Some of the granite from Aswan and then some of the stones from not too far away.
The floating theory, I guess, makes sense in terms of a human's capability to move a heavy object.
Yeah. But you have to displace the mass.
Right.
What are you displacing mass with for that level of mass in water? Highly unlikely that they would be able to displace that much mass to keep them floating. Otherwise, they'd sink. I mean, look at all the mafia movies. They just throw you in. And you don't come back up. And you have a lot of air in your lungs too.
Yeah. What were they using? Fuck. There's like a video of this. What were they using to keep them afloat?
I forget. Palm leaves or something. It was something ridiculous. It wasn't too bright.
It was on logs or something like that, maybe. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. But anyway, so you have that, but then also you have to take a look at the mud ramp theory, which is you need more mass than the Great Pyramid in mud to actually have the mud ramps. So now you have to move more mass than the 2 billion blocks to make the ramp. Again, didn't make any sense.
The ramp is how they were building the pyramid up in that way, so you need a ramp to bring the blocks up.
Right, right.
And then when you get on top, do they just slide down? Like, I'm so confused about how you finish that final stone.
It's a bad theory. It's a bad theory.
Well, I guess you could.
So once you start really analyzing the stones, the structures, the way that they're interlocked, you see there's an interlocking design system. And each stone is custom made to be put in place, which means it needs to be created at the moment that it's needed. How do you do that? How you're going to get this stone up this mud ramp or float it up into this area and then put it into a spot that it doesn't really fit? Oh, I made a mistake. It doesn't go here. Doesn't make any sense. The blueprint for the Great Pyramid, for example, was so sound, they had foreknowledge of exactly how to build it and why. And so you see that these stones were made and cut and put into place exactly, precisely when needed. It didn't take 20 years, in my opinion. It probably took maybe less than a year to build that pyramid.
Why? Why less than a year?
If you look at the, I took my
I've been there. I've seen it.
Yeah, took my Geiger counter.
Yeah.
And my compass and everything else, and you start to realize that this is so high tech. It's like throwing up a house in my neighborhood. It takes them 18 months to throw a house up.
Yeah.
You know, this is not one of those things where we're trying to figure it out as we go. This is something that has been done so many times.
Gotcha.
It's common knowledge.
So this is advanced planning. They had the the logistics and the schematics all built out. You need to for how sophisticated it is. I subscribe to that. They're not throwing it all together.
Well, check this out. The Great Pyramid, if you calculating by the size of the base and the size of the stones, you can calculate the time, 365 days in a year. You can calculate the distance from the Earth to the moon. You can calculate the distance from the Earth to the sun. You can calculate the speed of the Earth around the sun, the speed of the Earth on its axis, the speed of the sun around the Milky Way galaxy, and the speed of the Milky Way galaxy around the local cluster, all from the Great Pyramid mathematics. Whoa. So how in the world did that fit in with the rolling logs, the water, or the mud ramp? We're talking about advanced technology, advanced beings that made that pyramid as a time capsule of incredible knowledge. A star map even is built into it to tell us who was here in the ancient past and who did it and how. When you take all the temples that are around the pyramid and the other two pyramids that are next to it, and you look at it from the sky looking down, and you connect them, you get an inner planet system of our solar system. You get the sun in the middle, you get Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. So you get the interplanetary solar system from Giza looking straight down. And what's incredible is when you take the NASA interplanetary solar map and you overlay it on that diagram, it matches down to the millimeter.
What?
Was NASA around back then?
No.
I'm just asking for a friend. So obviously they knew what the hell they were doing. And also the distance from the sun to the Earth and to all these other planets by the astronomical unit, which is in astrophysics. How did they get that? The Grand Gallery leading up to the King's Chamber, the longitude is the exact digits of the speed of light in meters per second.
Really?
Meters didn't exist back then.
You're telling that like staired tunnel that goes there? Really?
Yeah, the location is the exact digits of the speed of light in meters per second. But then you look at the pyramid, it was sitting on top of an aquifer. The aquifer is dry now because the Nile is gone, the war happened and everything else. But when you have running water underneath magnetized crystal granite, you get physiostatic electricity. Those ions push up into the Grand Gallery. Some of the water comes up and goes down into the Queen's Chamber. I'll talk about that in a second. The energy from those ions moves up into the King's Chamber. It stepped up. Well, before it had to have that little box there. The box was added, by the way. Before that box was there, it had the capability of creating fusion and sending electricity through the apex. When the pyramid was broken, the structure was broken, they added that box. That box is the same exact dimensions as the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the
box
Covenant
you're talking about, is that like tomb-like structure?
That rose granite box that's inside,
Yeah, how would they even get that in there?
Yeah, they added it later on. How to get, a lot of the stuff, I think they teleported or manifested.
Teleported or manifested.
The ancients were right. The Bible is right. The Quran is right. We're living in a creation. Now, the method of creation is something called a fractal holographic universal matrix. This is an energetic grid created by the Mandelbrot set fractal mathematical equation discovered by Benoit Mandelbrot. And then within that code are error correcting codes that run the programming code that keep this entire universe functioning. We are literally creating one frame at a time as we need it in this universe. So fractal mathematics talks about the fact that they discovered this one fractal code, which is a very small mathematical formula that can create everything that exists in the known universe. And Pixar took that code from Benoit Mandelbrot and imported it into their cartoon or their animation software. They were the first ones to do it. They were able to create entire movies from one formula. The animation, the movements, the characters, the background scenes, the sky, the mountains, and all that, it's being created on the fly as the program code needs it. And they discovered that's the same exact code that's creating everything we need in this universe.
What?
This is taking ayahuasca.
This dude is on another level right here.
Human beings could be aliens.
Well, actually, every person on this planet is an alien. Even our planet itself is an alien. What? Scientists just discovered something interesting. I've never talked about this yet on the podcast, so you guys can look this up. So our Milky Way galaxy is pretty interesting because it's absorbing another galaxy at this exact moment called the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. Not the Sagittarius constellation, that's something totally different. We are absorbing the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy at this exact moment. People thought for all these decades, looking up, even hundreds of years, looking up in the night sky, seeing that swath of stars going across, that's the Milky Way. Guess what? We've been wrong the whole time. This is now being taught in universities in astrophysics. So what you're looking at the absorption or the merging of the Sagittarius with the Milky Way galaxy. And the exact point where it merges and drops into the Milky Way is right where our solar system is located, which would explain the rogue planets that we know that are out there. There's millions of rogue planets that have no sun that are just floating free around. There's planets in solar systems that are orbiting far beyond the orbit of Pluto in our inner Oort cloud, admitted by astronomers now, that there's other solar systems within this inner Oort cloud area orbiting our sun every 4,200 years. So this is pretty interesting. We're talking about the fact that our solar system itself is an implant into the Milky Way, that we come from Sagittarius. We're not even part of the Milky Way galaxy.
What? Whoa, so we're not even part of the Milky Way galaxy? What?
Now, in the Bible, what does it say? It says that my seed shall not abide in man forever. His years shall be 120. That was taken from the Sumerian tablets, even further back than that. Thousands of years before the Bible was written, when Yahweh, a.k.a. Enlil, shows back up, sees the human beings building a tower into the heavens, copying a tower that they themselves had built. It pissed him off, and he said, wherever their hearts decide to do, they shall achieve it. My seed shall not abide in man. His years shall be 120. And then he did a genetic modification at that point, I believe, with the telomeres, and he spread mankind out around the planet, and he confused their languages. He had us speaking different languages, so we couldn't collaborate. Now we're in competition, no collaboration, divide and conquer.
And there's the Tower of Babel.
That's it. That's it, man.
It was all done just to keep us from rising.
Yes. We were advancing too fast, and he had to slow us down. If we shorten their lifespan, then they won't have enough time. By the time they realize who they are and what power they have, they'll be dead. And see, that's what's happened to us.
Once they realize the power.
Anyone can go online to the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library and read these stone tablets for themselves. You don't need Zacharias Hitchens. You don't need anyone else. And as I began to break these tablets down,
do they have them transcribed, or are you reading the actual tablet?
They transcribe them. They actually transcribe them into English for you.
Is there controversy as far as, like, does some people think it's interpreted differently? Is like some debate about that?
Only where it comes to where some of the text is missing. There could be pieces chipped off of tablets. You see that corner missing from that tablet right there in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Just look how wild is that?
Yeah.
Just how wild is that exists?
Yeah.
And that it's so hard for people to put in their brain 5,000 years of time.
Yeah.
And that there's these people that have this very bizarre language. Like when you look at that language, we don't even know what it sounds like, right?
Right. No. And the language popped up out of nowhere. You know, you're talking about a civilization that appeared out of nothing.
It looks like computer code.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
This is crazy stuff.
I know there's the burning of the Library of Alexandria where they lost a lot of the information, but
I think that might have been a book heist.
Really?
Yeah, I think the burning of the Library of Alexandria was a heist. The burning did happen, don't get me wrong, but that was just a distraction to steal the knowledge, and that the majority of that knowledge ended up in the Vatican archives.
See the Vatican.
That's what I believe.
Vatican is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I went there with my family a few years back, and I was blown away. If you go to Rome, please go to the Vatican. It's stunning. Yeah. And they also have an Egyptian obelisk.
Yes, right in the center. And you know, that obelisk, that courtyard is the same courtyard as Teotihuacan. If you look at Teotihuacan,
you mean the dimensions?
Not the dimensions, but just the actual shape of that courtyard, it matches the courtyard of Teotihuacan. So
really,
yeah, it's an incredible coincidence that they built it based on Teotihuacan, where the Avenue of the Dead has those platforms, and then you have the Pyramid of the Sun on the right, and the Pyramid of the Moon straight ahead. That area resembles the courtyard of the Vatican.
Wow.
Can you imagine that 36,000 years ago, according to mainstream, we were like hunter-gatherers just trying to find scraps on the ground and scavenging to eat and group hunt mammoths and all this kind of crazy stuff, and living out of caves and everything else. And at the same time that's all supposed to be going on,
this is being written. This is being written, right? So let me ask you this question based on bare bones logic. If you're living in a civilization where your main goal of the day is to survive and just find some type of food and shelter, do you have time to write these kind of works of art? Do you have time to understand quantum physics, quantum mechanics, theoretical physics, philosophy, frequencies and vibrations? Do you have time for that? So something ain't adding up. Either some people came here with some real knowledge, or they don't want us to know that these people came here with the real knowledge because they don't teach you this in school.
Man, stop.
You have to begin to understand that you are the one that's creating your situation that you're in right now. And because of that, you have to be very cautious of the decisions you're making and the action steps that you're taking now. So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to sit back and think of a particular situation and the outcome that you want to have in that situation. And then you need to be able to make a decision in your mind without acting on it, and then send that decision into the future and meditate on it and watch it unfold here in the mind's eye, because mind is outside of space and time. And watch that decision unfold in reality through consciousness. Okay, well, this is not gonna unfold the way that I would like to see it. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back and meditate again. I'm gonna make a different decision and put action behind that and watch it unfold into the future from that thought perspective until you get to the one that gives you the reality that you want. In the ancient texts, they call them the ordainers of destiny. And these ordainers of destiny had this capability. What I'm telling you, what I'm teaching you right now is super ancient, deep antiquity. This is the knowledge of the ancients. They knew how to create their own reality. They knew how to literally nudge realities into existence through conscious thought backed by action to create their manifestation. They understood how to travel with their mind into the future to see what things will unfold, almost like looking into a crystal ball. And then when they discover the one that they want, that's the action and the energy they put behind that thought and that process. And then they get what they want. They get the reality that they themselves created. We're all doing this, by the way.
Right.
But you don't understand. You don't understand what that means. We're all doing it, but we don't realize that we're doing it, so we're extremely clumsy with our thoughts. We are extremely clumsy with our actions, right? We're extremely clumsy. And because of that, we stumble and fall all over the place, and we don't really understand what's really happening. We don't get it. It's us that's creating the reality.
Right.
The future is a mirror of your own conscious thought and your actions. That's all it is. The future is literally an actual mirror of your conscious thoughts and your own actions.
All right, so that was another TikTok compilation, man. Billy Carson. That was very interesting for me, to say the least. Like, I'm into ancient stuff. I'm into manifestation. I'm into thoughts. I'm into frequencies. I'm into all that type of stuff. So for me, this was very interesting, to say the least. And just old ancient texts, like what was going on back in the day. Like he said, how was we hunter-gatherers and so, unevolved, but we was able to do all this other stuff simultaneously at the same time. How does that make sense? But like I say, do your own research. If you made it this far, drop real one for real in the comments. I also got a TikTok playlist. If you into this stuff, like I said, make sure you got some time because you might go down a rabbit hole. But till next time, man, self-love and positivity. Till next time, Fire Squad, I got you and you know it.